the 2022 Siemens ALC-42 Charger. The flagship of Amtrak's long-distance fleet. The first of its kind produced in HO scale by Bachmann. It has DCC, it has TCS wow sound, it has the title of being my most advanced HO scale locomotive. I don't normally do locomotive reviews on my channel, but clearly this thing is an exception. So let's see just how much of a punch this Charger can pack. But first, let's have a little context, so if you're just joining us, you can have some background on what this engine is. Since the 1990s, the Genesis series of diesels produced by General Electric have been the favorite locomotive on the Amtrak network. But with all of these being well over 20 years old by now, it was inevitable for newer technology to arrive. That came in the late 2010s with the Charger series produced by Siemens. I say series as there are several variants used on different passenger trains. But the ALC-42 in particular, first made in 2021, is set to become Amtrak's new long-distance locomotive. The ALC-42 comes complete with 4,200 horsepower in an engine that meets EPA Tier 4 emission standards, for you environmentalists out there. The new engine comes with a new paint scheme too, as the Chargers can be seen in Amtrak's Phases 6 and 7, except for number 301, the model I have. It was painted in a special 50th anniversary livery to commemorate the first ever paint scheme worn by an Amtrak engine, which was applied on the carrier's first day of operation, and therefore named Day 1. Despite some initial mechanical troubles, especially in colder regions, the ALC-42 seems to be performing alright as it gradually replaces the Genesis on services across the country. Bachmann released their ALC-42 model in 2022, around the same time that the real ones were being placed into service. So far, they are the only brand that has released the model in HO. Inside the box, the locomotive is well protected not just with the standard plastic shell, but also a sort of case that opens up, which is something I haven't seen on HO engines before. There is also your usual exploded diagram, operator's manual, and of course,
a full-color combined Bachmann and Williams catalog over 300 pages, digest size. Be grateful I'm not ripping it up. You will be spared for now.
Like any passenger engine should be, this model is quite a looker, with the aerodynamic body and Day 1 scheme represented very well on this scale, with roof details and even the smallest painted lettering added. Some of the Charger's more unique aspects, like the little holes in the wheels and the engine lights, are also included. In comparison to its P42 predecessor, the Charger is slightly longer, and weighs about the same as my Kato Genesis. Just like the real one, this Charger is chock full of advanced features, up to date with current HO scale engines. As mentioned, there is a TCS wow sound decoder on board, with signature features like audio assist and keep alive to keep it going even over dirty track. Alright, to test the keep alive on this, I'm about to shut off the track power. You can tell it's off when this engine stops making noise. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 seconds, motor was still on after power was taken off. Safe to say that Keep Alive works pretty well. Also included is a surprisingly wide variety of sounds to pick from. These include passenger announcements, startup and shutdown sequences, and horn sequences.
May I have your attention, please? Now arriving on track 1, southbound train 183. Please have your identification and tickets ready when boarding the train. Have a pleasant trip.
Speaking of which, there are plenty of horns and bells available to customize your Charger with just about any variation imaginable. Strange as these combinations may be, the vast sound library is in my opinion one of this engine's greatest strengths. And the variety is not limited to sounds either, but also how the ALC-42 can operate. Bachmann allows for this engine to run in several ways. You can keep the controls responsive for smooth, easy running, or you can program the engine to instead operate more like the real thing, with momentum and delays to account for the physics of a big and heavy train. There is also the option for the alerter, or dead man switch, a feature on all real locomotives but fairly new to HO models that automatically stops the train if the crew is unresponsive for a certain amount of time. This engine does not have this on by default, but it can be toggled on for more prototypical running. I said earlier how this is the most advanced HO-scale locomotive that I have, so to say my first impressions on it were positive would be an understatement. I was absolutely floored by the sounds and controls when first running this thing. Just reading the instructions had me blown away with how many features the Charger had, not to mention a whopping 3 pages of functions, which I didn't even know was possible. If you couldn't tell, I'm sort of a novice with DCC on this level, but a quick read from the instructions and such customizable settings makes this locomotive a great runner even for a caveman modeler like me. Now, as great as the Charger is, even I have my criticisms with it. This is a review after all. One small nitpick I have is the way the sounds are played from the TCS speaker, in the sense that it's kind of easy to tell with some of them that they're being played from a speaker.
Now departing on track 1, northbound train number 170. All passengers should have their tickets, baggage, and identification ready at this time. Have a pleasant day and a safe trip. All aboard?
Though to be fair, this is a small issue, and I don't know how easy it is to fix, so I'm not too bothered by it. I just wanted to mention it because I noticed it. But my number one criticism with the ALC-42 has to be the price. Now, I'm aware that what Bachmann shows is just a recommendation. I know many retailers sell it for much less, and I know the economy is not great. This is an intricate model, and a profit still has to be made. However, that doesn't stop buyers from being able to get a Charger direct from Bachmann at that price. Branching off from this is another more significant annoyance that I have, which is how you can only get the model in DCC. As much as I enjoy the features on this engine, not everyone has the ability to do that, and I can imagine there being Amtrak modelers who want a Charger, but have a DC layout and therefore hesitate on the price because they can't access all the engine's features that contribute to such a high price to begin with. So, if the Charger is to stay around in HO releases going forward, a DCC-ready version would be nice to see at some point. Bachmann has even offered other high-end engines as DCC-ready before, so I would think this would be possible. But thankfully, as it stands currently, the Charger can be found in many places online and in stores. In fact, I got mine for around $250 from an eBay seller. The engine seemed to be in new condition, and the seller was an established train store. But given that it's eBay, I would proceed with caution on getting high-end HO models from here. Besides, there are plenty of other retailers that still have Chargers for sale, and not just the ALC-42. If you are not modeling Amtrak long distance, Bachmann has also offered other Chargers, including the SCV-42 made for Via Rail, and the shorter distance SC-44 used by Amtrak, as well as other commuter rail operators. When I was looking for model trains for Christmas, I knew I wanted a modern DCC Amtrak engine to complement my P-42. I wasn't worried if it was a second Genesis or an affordable Charger, but as fate would have it, the Charger was what I got. While I was initially hesitant due to the high price, at least for my standards, I can report that it has been a worthwhile locomotive that I have enjoyed so far. If you can find an ALC-42 for a good deal, say around $300 if not less, I think the quality, realism, and sounds are worth it when running the engine with its full DCC potential. It's a great addition to a modern passenger fleet, and a locomotive that should continue to stay relevant for decades to come.